get offended, all right? Nobody get offended. I'm joking.
One second. It's reconnecting me again. So 1 second.
All right.
I see live on Facebook.
Meeting is now okay. It's streaming.
Oh, we're streaming.
Yes, we are streaming.
All right.
Hey, yeah, we're on. We're running.
What's up?
All right,
What's up?
all right. Good evening, good people. Welcome, welcome, MRT fam. I'm incredibly excited to be hosting this episode, season 1, episode 8. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Motherhood, Real Talk, Roundtable on romantic relationships. And so we have some very special guests here with me today. My really, really good friend, childhood friend, part of the Millennial crew, Dwayne Lee, who's been married for 6 years.
Right.
Yes, grew up together. We have Miss Ann Garcon and Irvis Garcon. And so we work together, and they've been married for, well, they're going on 14 years. Next week. Yeah, next week. So that's exciting. And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to talk about your platform too. What's it called? Love Talks with Garcons?
Yes.
Yes. And then, of course, my beloved Miss Jubilee Ransom. My first episode, we talked about our journey of divorce. And so when I initially started this brainchild of mine, a lot of it came from my inspiration from Jubilee sharing her story, being super transparent, this idea of, finding triumph after going through a really challenging time in her life. And so that really pushed me to be able to be transparent and share my story. And I figured since we're going to be talking about love, we started off talking about the pains of divorce. So we should come back on and talk about the optimistic parts of finding love again, but, garnering some advice from folks that seem to be doing it, right? And so Jubes always has some good gems of wisdom. And so I'm hoping that we can get some good gems of wisdom tonight from our folks. And so let y'all also, briefly introduce yourselves and talk about your own platforms, and then we'll jump into this conversation. I can't wait to get started. So Ann and Irvin's, talk a little bit about yourself, your platform, and then we'll keep it going.
So we are Ann and Irvin Garcon. We are, like Michelle just shared, we've been married for 14 years on Wednesday, next Wednesday to be exact. And I still like him.
She's
that's a big deal.
She's all right.
We are the co-founders of a marriage ministry called Marriage Built to Last, where we have different, events for married couples to get together and just kind of network and build off of each other. And we also have our love talks where we, talk all relationship titles.
Yeah. So whether you're single, engaged, it's complicated, divorce, the platform is for you. And we also do a live stream every Thursdays, but today we decided to join forces with Michelle. Show some love. And so you guys can follow us on Love Talks with the Garcons. Garcons is Garcon on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube. We put out different content, videos on relationships on YouTube, and we do live streams on Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can follow us there. And we're just happy to be here tonight. We have 3 beautiful kids. They're part of our life. They're part of our what we do. So we always include them in our conversation. So that's us.
That's us.
Yay! Thanks for sharing. Jubes, you want to talk a little bit about your platform, and this weekend actually, I'm actually attending your Crown Experience, and so you want to share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Jubilee. I'm a woman. Hear me roar.
Yes.
I'm a child of God. I'm happy. I'm filled with joy. I'm blessed and I'm grateful to be here. Where do I begin? I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Wow.
I am a single mom. I'm recently divorced after 30 months of litigation. Wow. I am a motivational speaker, author, certified life coach, and I'm really just all about healing and moving through these tough spaces, transitioning from trauma to triumph. And so on Saturday, I have my event. I'm being obedient to the Lord because, that's important. The name of the event is From the Crisis to the Crown. And it is all about the journey of healing. I feel like in my journey, and I'm still on my journey of healing, I think it's an ongoing process and less of a destination, more of a journey to be embraced. But I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. And because I wasn't surrounded necessarily by so many people who had been through what I had gone through. And so during that time, I found some really important jewels that are connected directly to how you can go through a traumatic time, but still come out better and not bitter. And so Crisis to the Crown really is all about confronting whatever that trauma is, getting into a safe space, connecting with folks who can suggest a bunch of tools that you can use on your own healing journey, and then coming out in a place of triumph and then doing it all over again. So that's Saturday, the August 8th, 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock. It's on Zoom. You can find a link on my page. It's Jubilee _ on IG or Jubilee Ransom on Facebook. Once you register, you'll receive the Zoom information. We have breakout rooms that are connected to trauma, triggers, healthy habits for living, soul care, managing the mind through music, et cetera, et cetera. So come out and join us as we heal together.
So good.
And I'm excited
lots
to
of
talk
good
about all this stuff right here.
I hope folks have got their notepads and pencils. There's lots of good resources coming out of this. And then, of course, Dwayne, he and I were having what was it, Dwayne, like last week about love and marriage and what it really looks like to work through it, even through the challenging times. And he was like, yes, we should absolutely do this show, And so I was like, all right, well, I'll put together and we'll certainly have that conversation. But Dwayne, tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into this conversation.
All right. Well, I'm Dwayne Lee, as Michelle said. I'm a friend from what they call it, like kids, like young, you know what I mean? We grew up on the same block, like basically facing each other's house, forever. And sandbox, there we go. That's
sandbox,
the word. And we Jamaican, we don't play in sandboxes, but I'm bothering you. But yeah, we were talking, and I was definitely sharing with her, the importance of I guess a man's role when it comes to a marriage, you know what I mean? And so, she was saying that she wanted to do it, and I was like, listen, I'm with it, like make it happen. I'm excited. I've been married for 6 years to my wife Julianne. Well, I was gonna say Brown, but her name is Lee now, right? Lee. And we have 2 beautiful kids, 2 young girls, 4 and 2, Mia and Julia. And they're awesome. They're a lot of work. They're my coworkers now. They work from home in the coronavirus. But they're awesome. They're great kids. Actually, they're actually setting up for. We have to do a story this week for church, and so they're setting up for that right now. So they're not here watching with me, but they'll watch the recording later. But I'm excited. Let's make this happen. Let's get this talk on the road.
Yeah. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of research, because when I had initially talked about divorce, the divorce rate was so high when it was, the stats was like 50% of all marriages end in divorce. And I'm like, well, who makes that up? Because we talked about traditional marriage versus marriages today. So it became sort of like the conversation around Gen X versus millennials. Is there a difference in the way in which we think about relationships? And not even to bring it back, but then there was this big conversation again, with this entanglement conversation about what are non-negotiables in relationships. And so I was like, well, let me explore that a little bit, because I'm still kind of wanting to figure out what are the things that need to happen to make a marriage work. And so the necessary thing I felt like, was to have a candid conversation about what it looks like. And essentially what kept coming up was, what are the things that people feel that are true to them, or the things that they probably grew up seeing. And so I read this article that had some research that suggests that folks in their late 20s have less than 50% chance of getting divorced. That means that they're actually staying together and staying together longer. But the article goes on to say a lot has to do with the millennials' attitudes towards marriage. And honestly, I thought that was actually the reverse, because I thought people, from the Gen X, and before that era, it was more so they were getting married and they would stay in it no matter what. They had their traditional kind of like gender roles. And it's like, when we get married, we stay married no matter what. But it seems like it's the millennials that are kind of like, we're waiting until we're getting all of our ish together, then before, we get married. And then essentially that's what kind of plays into successful marriages. But what are your thoughts on, first of all, let's identify, what are the important components in having a healthy marriage? Let's start with that.
And so I remember when I was talking to Michelle about this, I guess, we were talking about components to healthy marriage, right? I remember when I was growing up, one of the things that I thought about, it came to me, I don't know if it was the spirit that led it to me or what, was that there's 3 C's when it comes to a great marriage. And I mean, my thoughts have evolved from this, but I still think this is a great premise. But there are 3 C's when it comes to a great marriage. And the 3 C's that I chose to live by at that point was, the first C was communication, Christ, and compromise. And I see that even more now when I'm married, that compromise is huge, communication is even bigger. I struggle with that, and it's funny, you think you don't struggle with it because I talk so much. I love to talk, and my wife is like, "You talk all the time, but you don't communicate," and it's crazy. But communication is so key, and I'm a very firm believer that Christ should be the center of a marriage, and so I feel like those 3 C's kind of help the marriage go along. And so I think if we're both on that same page, especially if we're going to keep it, if I talk a lot about the Bible, I don't know if that's what Michelle wants, but okay, good. But
let's talk about it.
I'm a very huge believer of being unequally yoked, and it's not just simply just living. I'm believing in the same exact denomination and living that same life. But I mean, I feel like more like unequally yoked. Like we got to understand what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, what is the plans for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. Like that was huge for us when we were getting married. We did pre-engagement counseling, and then we did engagement counseling. And I remember some friends were like, "What? You're doing counseling and that pre-engagement counseling?" And I was like, I didn't get in the beginning either. But when we kind of sat down and spoke to the counselor was like, "Listen, you spend so much years in school. You go to kindergarten, then you do your elementary school, junior high school, then college, to work until 62. But then you get married at 25 and expect that to last another 55 years.
Good.
And you went to 2 weeks of counseling. How? You spend 8 hours at work, but you're forever married. You know what I mean? Like you really need to understand what marriage is about. And so counseling is not a bad thing. And so I learned so much from all of that. And so I realized that if both individuals really want this marriage to work and they understand, what it is to, give of themselves and be selfless, I think marriage will work. You know what I mean? But easier said than done. I mean, let me say that, and I'll digress.
And I think that there's a part of it too, and coming from the mouth of the millennial. But I think that the part of what I'm hearing you say is that there's a level of preparation that goes into it. Like with everything in life, we prepare for, right? Yeah. And here is a big component, and it's a transformative piece because now it's not just you, it's you and somebody else. Right. And you all have to figure out where you're going to be able to meet each other on different things as you go through life together. Yeah. And a part of that comes through, preparing yourself to be able to do that. And I heard you say there are 3 things that you kind of like put to the forefront when you were thinking about, getting married. And so that's communication, Christ, and compromise. And we might need to unpack that a little bit. But I'd love to hear a little bit from Ann and Irvin's regarding what Dwayne was just sharing around the preparation piece and how important that part is in, getting to a successful marriage.
Yeah, we actually did a video on our YouTube page. It's not a shameless plug. It's just it is connected to this question. We actually did a video on our YouTube page called the ABCs before you get married.
Before you say I do.
Before you say I do. The ABCs before you say I do, where each letter stood for something that people need to be aware of before they get involved in marriage. And so, like Dwayne was saying, there is a lot of things that people need to be prepared for. We did 2 weeks. We had 3 sessions of premarital counseling. All right, and no pre-engagement.
No, I did 2 years.
You did 2
other people normally do 2 weeks, but I did 2 years.
You did 2 years. That's great. We did 3 weeks, and by the grace of God, we're still here. We're still here. But if I want to add another C to the 3 C's you gave, another.
You even shared yours, Dwayne.
Communication.
No, not communication.
Compromise.
Compromise was my number one, right? Because like if you come into a marriage and you're still selfish, it's not going to work. I don't care like who you are, how much money you have, right? You have to come in being willing to compromise, because you come with your own set of beliefs, your own set of baggage, so to say, and you're kind of forming with another person, and like you have to learn how to now mesh these 2 worlds together to form a unit that's going to work for you, for you too. You know, so compatibility.
You stole my word.
Because you
that was going to be the other C I was going to add, compatibility. and I think a lot of times people confuse compatibility, meaning that you are the same people. No, you can still be different and still be compatible. So basically it's the ability to come together and live in harmony. It sounds very kumbaya-ish, but it's so essential to a successful marriage. Are you and this person compatible? Are you able to compatibility is connected to compromise. If you're compatible, you might be different, but you're able to compromise. You're able to communicate. And then you're able to, what's the other C?
Christ. It was Christ.
Right. Well, you gotta be compatible in faith.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole unequally yoked thing. So once you have that compatibility, it makes it a little bit easier for the work that comes along with marriage.
And it's interesting that you say that, because again, when you go back to sort of like traditional marriage back in the day, I don't know that people did as much as this, like we need to have all of these things in common. It's just like, you know, I meet this guy, I really like him. He's the head of the household. He can take care of the family, kind of thing. Kind of like, you know, going back to the traditional gender roles. Yeah. But now there's been a shift with millennials where they're kind of like, I got to make sure, like, I got all my degrees. You know, are we leveling up together? Like those are the conversations, you know, people are essentially having. And so there might be something to that kind of like progressive thinking in terms of what love really is and marriage really is. Because now there's this term now where it's like, it's not like I'm in love, but I'm growing in love, you know, like I'm growing because it never kind of like stops. And so this equally yoked piece, I'm going to pull on that thread a little bit, because I remember when Jubilee and I were having this conversation about marriage and what it really takes. One of the things she said was, one, you got to go in making sure that you are a whole person. Like you can't go in thinking somebody is gonna, you know, fulfill you or is going to make you whole. And the other part was this equally yoked piece of it. And so Jubes, can you jump in on this part of the conversation and give us your thoughts around what we've been talking about in terms of things that are needed in a marriage: compatibility, compromise, Christ, communications. I feel like those were all threads that we were pulling on when we talked about, you know, the things that we kind of like took away from our situation.
Yeah. Oh Lord, I'm about to just mess it up, Lord. Well, I don't know. I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I agree with pretty much everything that was said. But now that I'm standing on the other side of it, even though I definitely agree, need to be equally yoked and the compromise, compatibility, and all of that. But now I believe that more than anything, there has to be this willingness to continue to will. Like we say I do at the altar, right? Or we say I will. At my wedding, I don't know what my pastor made us say I will. Right? And it's like this notion that I will on the day we say our vows, and I will the day after that, and I will the day after that, and I will the day after that, and I will when we have our first child, and I will when my wife is going through postpartum, and I will when as a husband I lost my job and now I feel insecure because I'm not making enough money and I'm not the breadwinner, and I will when my wife gets a promotion and I don't, and she makes more money than me, and I will when my grandparent who was my caretaker and my heart passes away, and I will. And so I think more than it is a checklist sort of thing, and not saying that that's what you provided, I think it's more of a heart condition. Like, where is your heart as it relates to loving yourself first, right? Loving God first, because you really can't love yourself if you don't love God and if you don't receive the love of God, right? Where are you with here we go, this way, right? God and you. Then where are you with you, right? And then where are you with someone else? And I think that when it comes to trying to identify like what makes a strong marriage, what makes a strong partnership, we spend a lot of time looking at these different pieces, but we get pulled away from the core of it, which is really the matters of the heart. And this idea that, yes, we could be compatible, because I tell people all the time, like, my marriage wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad for all those years. It started going south way earlier than I wanted to admit, but it wasn't all bad for all those years, right? But yet we were compatible, we were equally yoked and all of that. But that willingness, right, to have those heartstrings tugged at, the willingness to have a listening ear, the willingness to say, oh man, I was wrong, let me adjust that. The willingness to realize and identify, oh my God, we are changing. And the person that I said I will to at the altar is not the same person that's sitting here. Now, our core values are the same pretty much, right? I think pretty much like when we get to a certain age, we believe what we believe. And so we can add to those things, but I don't necessarily think that, like, I believe in integrity. That's how I was raised. I think people should have integrity, right? And so that's my core value. So whether I'm 38 now or 52, that's probably still going to be my core value, right? So those things that are our foundation that we're grounded in usually don't change, but our likes change, right? Our dislikes change, our circle of friends change, right? We grow in age, things change. And so are you staring at somebody who's saying, I will for the moment, for the romance, for the flowers, for the attention, for the foot rubs? Or are you staring at somebody who's like, wherever you go, right? And wherever I go, we doing this together, and I will continue to will from here until the rapture. So I don't even know if any of that answers your question, but that's just what's on my heart. And there you have it.
That's great, though. That's great.
We could just end right here.
That's great. I mean, Michelle, if I may, a few weeks ago, when we did the live session, we talked about the different stages a marriage go through. And what Jubilee is talking about, it's basically, they label it as the explosion stage. And it actually can happen at any time during your marriage, and it basically connotes, job loss, health issues. It could be something as a move to a new city. So all those things, it's called an explosion because it is a change that was not expected. So it's very important for in marriage that we are ready for that, and how we handle it, and are we still going to be saying, like Jubilee said, I will, when those things does happen, because explosion is going to happen. It's going to happen multiple times. It's going to happen over the duration of the marriage. So yeah, connecting that to the I will mantra, or that I will stance or dedication is very, very crucial.
And it reminds me of, it reminds me of an event that we hold every year called I Still Do. So we gather couples. And so every year, because if we made it another year, that's a huge deal, right? Needs are changing. I'm changing as a woman. So, and if you're still here and I'm still here, then, and we still do, that's something to celebrate, because day after day, it's another hurdle we have to get over. So every year we have this event where married couples can come back together and renew those vows and say, I still do, no matter what we've been through, I still do. And I still do, hopefully for the next year.
You do see some of the eye rolling though. Some of them really don't. because it was a rough year. It was a rough year. They'd be like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
It makes me say it.
I'm gonna say it right here, but we got to talk once you get in that call.
We got to talk later.
Yeah, but that was really powerful, Julie.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we still do.
Yes.
So for my folks that are watching and taking notes, I wanted to go back to this because I don't think that I caught the AB. But again, I wanted to stamp what Dwayne had shared around sort of like the 3 C's: communication, compromise, and Christ. And then Urbans, you talked about the ABCs. I got the C from that, which is compatibility. But what was your A and B?
Oh no, I can't remember all of them. We have a whole ABC A through Z on a YouTube video that we did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so that was going to be sort of like my next go-to, because I think we got married folks on here. We're going to get to the dating and the intimacy part for the singles out there, wanting to get some gems too. But for the married folks, when you just talked about the explosion in a marriage, right? And when that happens, things can go topsy-turvy. And we all know that sometimes we talk about communication, and it is the hardest thing to do, even with the person that you've been with for, quite some time. I know I'm working on communicating my feelings in sort of like, the most transparent way, because again, vulnerability is hard for me.
Yeah.
But when you get to that explosion place, what would you advise couples to do? Because I think sometimes, again, there's still stigma associated with like seeking help, right? Or talking to someone. So if a couple feels like they're in that explosion stage and not necessarily knowing how to communicate or navigate that, what would you advise them to do? Or what have you done that you have found to be successful?
Yeah, for us, we have a accountability partner. Another couple that we actually are very transparent with them, and they're very transparent with us. So whenever we are on the explosion stage, thank God we haven't have major things, but for those things that where we need that third party to help us communicate, we are very open to that. And I encourage everybody right now, counseling, therapy, that's not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word for Christians. It's not a dirty word for Black folks, because those are the 2 groups. I don't have a study for it, but those 2 groups, it's almost as if we don't like that word. It's like a sin to go to counseling. It's a sin to go to therapy. Or for the Black, especially Caribbean households, we are telling our business to the world. We ain't doing that. So it's very important, because if you cannot handle it yourself, because there are some situations where it's so explosive, even just saying good morning to that person, or even thinking about what the issue is or what that explosion, the item in that explosion stage that's happening, it's detrimental. You just cannot communicate with each other. So that is where you want to find a professional, unbiased person. That don't go to your mama, especially if your mama. Right. Do not go to your mama or that sister or whatever.
Keep your family out of it, man.
Keep them out. Keep them out. Especially the dynamics. I mean, you got some great family members that could say, "I told you so." Like they could go, "I told you so," because they didn't like the relationship in the first place.
Right.
But put that aside and still be objective and give you counsel and help you connect and help you to build.
Yeah.
But finding that objective source that's going to be able to hold you accountable, especially if you're at fault. That person was, you know what, you were wrong. You are wrong for doing that. And then I was like, oh, he's a dog, So I think that's very important. In those explosion states, that you find the resources that you need to help overcome that particular stage.
And I would just add to that, just to kind of don't underestimate the power of prayer, and how, when you go to God and you're asking for direction, like you believe that He's going to give you those, whatever you're asking for. We're too quick to run to people before we run to God, where He says, come to me, all who are weary, right? Like if you're weary, like I'm tired of you, so I'm gonna go to God right now. So that's an example, not a testimonial. They're just examples, not a testimonial. And so like I think having that, strengthening that communication as well, even before going out to talk to others, because He may lead you to the right people to talk to. Correct. When you go to Him first. Yeah.
And by the way, real quickly, Michelle, if you don't mind, we found it. I could give you the quick, dirty rundown of the ABCs, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So ask the tough questions. Bring all of you credit. That's C. Make sure they got good credit.
Are you working on it?
You're working on that credit. Divorce is not an option. We put a question mark on it because sometimes it
I
can.
love that statement.
The credit one, right?
Well, we actually
the
had
one
a conversation
the
around that. I'm
divorce,
gonna put
the
an
divorce is not an
asterisk
option.
next to that one.
Asterisk,
Dwayne and I
Divorce
talked
is
about
not
that.
an option.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Divorce is not an option.
E is excess baggage should be let go. F is faithful or fidelity. G is God. H, have a plan. I, intentionality, be intentional. J is for jokes, have fun with each other. King, this is your king. L is love isn't all you need. Continue.
M, marriage takes work. N, needs matter. O, openness, be open. P, prayer. Q, queen, make her your queen. R, red flags should not be ignored. S, sexual compatibility, not to try before, but to talk about it. Like, let's talk about sex, right? T, time, you have to invest time. You want to continue?
Yeah.
What was P? What was P?
P is prayer.
Okay.
Prayer. And T is time. U is understanding. V is vacations. Enjoy time alone. Like right now, all of our vacations, well, she had one without me, have been us or with the kids. So now that you're single, it's the time for you to go and enjoy your own vacations. Wedding. Oh, W is wedding is just one day. Just one day. X, Xerox, meaning don't be a copy of somebody else. Y is your family and friends need you to stay.
No, they need to stay out.
They need to stay out. Your family and friends need to stay out. And Z is zest. Be zesty. The breakdown is on our YouTube channel, Love Talks with the Garçons. We break down every single letter. And so you guys can check it out on
Reiterate the R. What was the R?
The R was red flags should not be ignored. So there are some red flags before the marriage. Don't ignore them thinking, oh, it's going to get better when you get married.
Yeah, it's a bad move.
Yeah.
So let's identify again for our married folks. Maybe name one or two of the red flags that should not be ignored.
Girl, he's going to change when we get married. Nah, no. The only difference that takes place, if there's like some flaws that you know you just cannot tolerate, don't expect for them to change when you get married. God is able to change anybody, but at the same time, your personality, your temperament, your character, a lot of that stuff is just who you are.
And I also feel like when you have a close set of friends who you really trust, and they're all saying the same thing about this person that's not so good, that's a red flag. And you should kind of look into that. Even though you're really in love with the person, if the people who love you most are really, telling you about this person, something that, you probably can't see because you're so in love, don't ignore that either.
That's pre-marriage.
Pre-marriage. And I also think when it comes to red flags, right? Sometimes we create red flags that are not real red flags, meaning for us, we'd be like, oh, this is major. And I'm like, okay, I mean, maybe this for you is kind of major. But I'm like, I feel like sometimes we have unreal expectation, right? And so we're looking for a certain kind of person in our brain, and we're creating this basically God as a person. And we're like, oh, that's a red flag. No, maybe not. That might be something that he can work on. You know what I mean? Let's work on that also. But yes, but I totally agree. Like red flags should not be ignored. And the reason why I feel that way is because marriage comes with a lot of other issues. There's so much other things you're gonna have to deal when you get in there. So try to, at least acknowledge and know what you're getting into with the person right now. You know what I mean? Because when you get in marriage, there's gonna be a lot of new stuff you have to deal with.
Woo. Say that.
Again,
I'm not talking.
It's not a testimony, right?
She's talking about you. She's talking about you.
You can't talk about me.
No, I'm just joking. But I'm talking about it. I'm not talking about this from my wife's standpoint. Like she's gonna be like, "Word, I didn't know he did that at all." You know what I mean? So definitely, I think red flags should not be ignored for that reason.
So let's talk about this because this, I think, kind of like overlaps into sort of like dating, but also in marriage. But let's unpack sort of like the idea of expectations, because I've heard, two schools of thoughts on this. Like one is just like, you got to go into it without expectations, because then you kind of like create red flags in your mind that aren't necessarily there. And then there's like, when you start creating too many expectations, then you run into, there's nobody that fit the bill and you get into this checking of the box. So is this more so about like striking a balance and what are those non-negotiables? Or is it like, I'm gonna love this person for who they are, despite, what I'm making up in my head?
I think expectations, right, are necessary. I think we all have expectations. We can't change that. You know what I mean? I expect to have a great marriage. I expect to go to heaven. You know what I mean? I got to work for it, but I expect those things. You know what I mean? The expectations are great. You know what I mean? We got to have expectations. But I think the biggest part about expectations is verbalizing every expectation. So if I expect this of you, like I was raised a certain way, right? So I was raised in a Jamaican home. Mama always did this. Mama did that. Mama did this. And she went to work. Millennial, a lot of times you look at relationships now in this new age, a woman is not going to do as much mama did. You know, they're going to be like, nah, bro, because daddy didn't do much. Daddy came home, I was like, yep, what my dinner at? You know what I mean? And so a lot of times you don't see that. You know what I mean? So like that might have been my expectation, though. You know what I mean? I might expect that my wife washes the dishes and cleans the bathroom and so on and so forth. But we got to talk about these things. Let's talk about what I think is right. And then she can tell me, no, I don't know. I don't like that. You know what I mean? And then we can compromise, we can figure it out or whatever it may be. But I feel like it's okay to have an expectation. It's not wrong to have an expectation, but we got to discuss them. Let's discuss what we think.
Agree.
So it sounds like that more so it's being upfront with whomever. So whether it's dating or you're in a marriage, if there are certain things that are coming up for you that are non-negotiables or expectations, then you need to have those transparent conversations about what those things are. And then the both of you can be informed about whether or not you want to move forward or not, right? Or if you can compromise on those things. Jules, you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree. I definitely do think it's about what are your non-negotiables. And I feel like that list should be relatively small.
Mm-hmm.
You have 92 non-negotiables, bro. Sis, what are we doing? What are we doing? You're wearing me out. You're wearing me out. Like, you're wearing me out. So, so I definitely, I think it's about the non-negotiables. And again, for me, this stuff always goes back to you. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to me. Because if you don't know yourself, then how can you even understand what your expectations or non-negotiables and what they would be? And I feel like, again, my biggest thing with marriage and dating and how we've been taught or indoctrinated is the fact that there's so much mythology. There's so many misconceptions and, you know, it's like honor, submit. And there's like, now go and be happy. And it's like, wait,
what?
Is that, do we cut the cake now? Oh, like, I thought there was more to it, you know? And so I think that a lot of marriage has to do with not just like learning about the other person and what you expect from them. What do you expect from yourself?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? Who am I? Like, and that's a continuous journey. Because if I understand, you know what? I am a morning person, right? Like I'm a morning person, right? Like, and so these are the things. So for me, I know I'm a morning person, but I also understand that it's my Zen time. And so if I'm praying, I'm meditating, you know, on the word or whatever it is, I don't take a lot of phone calls in the morning. There's only a certain amount of people who can get to me in the morning because I know they're not calling me with no BS, right? But there's several calls I ignore because I know me. If I take those calls, I become all jittery and like, and I feel like I didn't get my day off to a right start. So for me, that's a non-negotiable. For me, that for my day, those things are non-negotiable for me, right? And I feel like in the same way that we look at life and scheduling and schooling and all of that, we need to look at our own personalities, our own dispositions, our own needs before we're able to now be like, well, you should be doing this. Or I need you to do this, because I feel like that's not a strong. It's not a strong foundation. It ends up turning into confusion because now you have somebody who's trying to meet you where you are, but then you don't really know where you are.
Yeah, and also there are some universal expectations in marriage. For example, love, respect, sacrifice, and commitment. But then again, there's other realistic expectations in marriage. Some things to expect in marriage is expect differences. Expect conflict. Expect your spouse to fail. Expect ebb and flows in your feelings in your marriage. Expect to share your expectation. Expect to disagree with some of his or her decision. Expect to be with him or her until the end, but then the end might come quicker based on the was it the stage we were talking about just before? Based on explosion. Yeah, and so there are some expectations that should happen, and I feel like as ministers who are doing premarital counseling, as Julie was just saying, we can't just boom, go and discover things and not letting us know about those things that's gonna happen along the course.
Correct. Correct.
So let's talk about, and I can't, and this was not good because I didn't write down the source, but I remember, and it was a while ago though, when I was sort of like, exploring my understanding of relationships and what women need and what men need out of relationships. I forget what book I was reading. I don't know if maybe it wasn't the 5 Love Language. It was something, but anyway, they had highlighted for women, oftentimes what they're looking for is security, affection, and communication. And for men, it's usually honor, and then there's like the, respect, right? Support, and then intimacy. And so I want to unpack sort of like what those 3 things are. And the women on this panel can talk more about that. And then the husbands can essentially talk about how they meet that. And then the other piece around sort of like the women in this like honor and respect and support and intimacy, because I'm trying to also identify whether there's still sort of like roles, not necessarily like traditional gender roles, but things that we do, for our partners to make sure that they feel a certain way within the relationship. So let's start with this sort of like this idea around security, affection, and communication. That is sort of like a need for women. And the guys can actually chime in to say, how they meet that for their wives. And then the women can talk about how that shows up for them too.
He's going to sign out.
It's like,
sign out.
I mean, I was on the same level, but I was like,
let's talk about it. Talk about it.
Let's go.
About it. Make it happen.
Security, like I had a pretty good upbringing. My dad was a pastor. He was very present, both as my physical dad and as my spiritual dad. And he gave me a sense of security even from young. And so I knew that going into a relationship, I knew that's what I wanted. I knew I wanted someone who would give me that security, not to like save me from, but like to know that I'm in good hands. I know that you have a vision for us, that we're going to be good, and I thank God because, that I did find that in my husband. And I think that my dad was really, he was open and ready to release me to Urbans because he provided that for me. And so I think it's so important that women have security, especially when, as you're told, taught, I mean, the word says, to be submissive to your husband. But a lot of wives that I've spoken to, they struggle with that because they feel like there's nothing to submit to. And so it's very important that the man has something in his hands, right? Like he has vision for us. Because someone once said, submission is like to be under a mission. So what is our mission? Where are we going? Like, do you have a plan for us? So I think it's really important that the men should be ready in that aspect to provide that security. Affection, we talk about affection all the time because 5 love languages, physical touch, like that's one of my
was this about the bathing suit conversation?
yeah, pretty much.
Bathing
suit conversation. It's a bathing suit conversation, right? I'm in a kiddie, we have a little inflatable pool. I'm in the pool with our 9-month-old at the time. I'm holding her. Homegirl went and changed to put her bathing suit on.
And I looked good, okay? Because I just had a baby 9 months ago. And so I felt like I look good in that bathing suit.
Dwayne, I'm talking to you, right? And so, so the baby's in the pool. The other 2 are splashing. So wife come from behind me and got in the pool. How am I supposed to see that you have a new bathing suit on? Because you came from and got in.
Listen,
right?
man. So I'm gonna give you the right answer. It's your fault, man. It's your fault. You should have saw her, bro.
He's only 6 years in.
Right? But he's very wise.
You know what I said? I'm gonna give you the right answer. Meaning that's for the wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my wife is all about the word of affirmation, and we laugh about it but when we went through the ABCs, right, that I just did, the N is needs matter. We gotta be able to know what your partner's needs are, as annoying as it may sound.
You might find, yeah, correct.
It's important. Like my wife wants us during, she's a teacher, I'm a guidance counselor. One of her needs is, as she's sitting here, check how ridiculous it sounds.
I didn't say it like that,
Stop.
babe. Come on.
Shh. As she's sitting at the table, zooming, teaching, zooming, and doing all the things. She wants me to come by and she needs to be touched. And I just say, hey, what's up? You good? She wants this. Like she wants there's a specific way the fingers have to go. You see how ridiculous that is? But nonetheless, but it's a need.
He's over-exaggerating. He's over-exaggerating right now.
But Dwayne, she's right? She's right.
She's right, bro. She's right. I hear you, man. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Gosh, you just make me look so stupid.
No, you're not stupid. I feel like every marriage, I feel like every woman might have those kind of things that they want their husband to do. The husband, because I'm one of them, I'd be like, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? But
you're right.
But you have to.
You're right.
We're so big on validation. Like we have to validate how each other are feeling. Like even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if it's kind of petty to you, if it matters to me, it matters to us.
That's women.
And that's just how it has to be. Like for you as well.
And I don't mean that in a sexist way.
No, not just women, but like for men as well. Like if you have something that's really important to you, and I kind of see it as like, I'm not going to say that. Like I can't show you that, it doesn't matter to me. I have to make it now matter to me as well.
And I think that's something that we use a lot, and even when we were dating into the marriage, is validation of feelings, and so that goes a very long way.
Correct.
So
correct, because even though you just joked about it, we're just joking about it. The idea of like that's just ridiculous. At the end of the day, though, it's what makes her feel good. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, and that's what marriage is about, man. Like literally, like what makes her feel is selflessness. Like I gotta be selfless. You know what I mean? Like if that's what my wife likes. End of the day, it ain't gonna kill me. It ain't gonna hurt me. I'm not less of a thug because I rubbed her back. You know what I mean? I can still be gangster. I can still be gay. But I gotta give her that. You know what I mean? But it's funny, right? I mean, Michelle talked about the 5 languages, and you guys, spoke about it a bit too. It's funny because a lot of times what we do in marriage is we either we don't know or we forget the way that our spouse receives love, right? And so we might be loving them the wrong way for so long. And they're not receiving it because that's not how they speak it. You know what I mean? Like I remember when we first started, when we got married, I'm a big gift buyer. So I'll go and buy huge gift. Like, here you go. I love you. You know what I mean? And I feel excited. And I bought the gift. You know what I mean? My wife would be like, oh, thanks. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you don't like it? You know what I mean? Like, you don't like it? No, but that's not her love language. She like acts of service. You know what I mean? So she'd rather me be like, hey, I got that. Let me wash them dishes. Oh, hey, let me take care of this. Let me take these kids out, and you can relax for a little bit. She rather those kind of things. So now I got to remember that and offer those things to her. And that's going to give her a sense of security. That's going to make her feel a bit more love. You do those things and you start speaking to her and are meeting those needs. Yeah. Then she's submitting. You know what I mean? Yeah. She's submitting. She's being the wife that you always wanted. You know what I mean? Because you're now giving her those things. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you have to really do, and it's not easy. Again, easier said than done. A lot of we are selfish beings. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we do fall, but we got to. That's got to be the goal. The goal got to be to please one another. You know what I mean?
You said security, affection,
and communication. But I think we talked extensively, though, around, unless there's more you want to add to communication. But I feel like we've talked a lot about communication, didn't really touch on the security and affection piece. Yeah. But going back to the security, though, and I have to talk about this because it's a real part of it. We talked about sort of, growing up and your dad kind of like being there, and there was that financial kind of like stability there. So going in, you felt good. And so now, again, let's get into like the millennial phase of it when, you got women that are also the breadwinner, and that becomes a challenge, for a lot of men knowing that, my wife is making more money than me, what does that look like? And then sometimes, with a woman being in that position, it can sometimes, those conversations are hard to have already. And so how do they then kind of like feel a sense of security in a situation like that, particularly when the guy is also feeling insecure about, you know, because that's how most people measure kind of like security, right? Where there's like finances, but there's more to that. Based on this conversation, there's more to that. So what would you say, you know, in a situation where they're validating their sense of security through finances, as opposed to like there's more to feeling secure in a relationship other than just finances?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, I think, and this is a real quick statement. I think a lot of times we feel that marriage is 50-50, and I think that's what the problem is. And so a lot of people come into marriage with this 50-50 idea. You know, you 50, I'm 50. No, we 100. We got to give of ourselves completely. And I think that's where the security piece comes in, where like I'm showing you completely and giving you all of me. You know what I mean? So that, you know, transparency. You know, so when I do that, you're much more secure in me. You know what I mean? I remember, and I'm gonna be real transparent real quick. I remember when me and my wife were dating, and I made a mistake. I did something, you know, whatever. Made a mistake, right? My wife told me something, and it blew my mind. You know what she said to me? And I think about it till today. You know what I mean? She said to me, "You were my little teddy bear. I viewed you as like you couldn't do no wrong, and you took that away from me." You know what I mean? Now she no longer feels that like, you know, he has me, he holds me. I'm secure in his arm. That's what a teddy bear is. Think about my daughter. She loves her little blanket. That's what she needs every night to hold. You know what I mean? Because you feel comfortable with that. You know what I mean? But so that's what security is, I think. And I think so much more than just finances.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like one of my counselor definitely told me, he said the best years of his marriage was when they were broke, living on a mattress in a one-bedroom apartment. He was like, that was love. He was like, it was crazy. We got money and things started getting crazy. You know what I mean? So it's not about money. You know what I mean? But, you know, I think that's huge. You know what I mean? I think what it is, giving of yourself completely, you know, being transparent and making so that she can trust you on that level. You know what I mean? And you can trust her on that level. And you can have that. That's where the security really comes in, I think.
Yep.
Spot on.
And just I want to add on that real quick when it relates to security. And Michelle, you talked about it before, vulnerability, right? There's a lot of people, it's hard for them to be vulnerable in a relationship or a marriage. But that's because there's a sense of insecurity that is established in the relationship and marriage. I don't feel secure to be vulnerable. So then that affects communication. There are things I want to talk to you about, but I don't want to talk about it because I don't feel secure that you're going to receive what I have to say. And so that's very important as we are going as it relates to security, and that has nothing to do with money. Is just creating this safe space of being able to be vulnerable and talk about anything big or small without feeling that you're small for bringing it up.
Mm-hmm. And so let's now go into the other piece of this. So we talked about sort of like what the needs of a woman potentially is, right? But now we're gonna shift to thinking about, well, what are the needs of the men and women? You know, talk to this and guys co-sign on what, you know, if we're hitting the nail on the head. Yeah. But there's this idea of honor, respect, support, and intimacy. And so unpack that for us a little bit. What does that mean? This honor and respect piece and this idea around support, and then you know, intimacy. And I think both of us, women and men, can chime in on what intimacy, you know, for each of those genders essentially mean.
Yeah, I honestly feel like I think men are a little bit simpler than women. I'm sorry, Jubilee. I'm sorry, Jubilee. But to a certain degree,
that would always be an argument, though, bro. You know why? Because at the end of the day, right?
Over here,
we know what we want. You know what I mean? Like, I get what you want. You know what I want. You know what I mean? I feel like we're simple. At the end of the day, though, we don't know what women want, right? And women would say the same thing. Like, women would be like, I know what I want. You know what I mean? And it ain't that much. You just got to do this. Yeah. And man is like, yes. So I don't think it's a level simple. I think we're both complicated. We just don't get it.
Because for me, I think my love language actually is acts of service, and my wife does a pretty good job because she always asks me. She's always put me on the spot. What else do you need? Do you need more? It's almost like she's pulling me to say, what more do I need? But for me, the reason, I guess, in my experience, the fact that my wife is already so naturally picking her head up, she's naturally nurturing, right? So there's a lot of things I might need because that's my love language, acts of service. That's already happening. So I feel like in that particular instance, it's very simple. Intimacy, I love it when she initiates. I don't want to be the one that like, hey, yo, so what's good? What's really good on tonight? You know what I mean? What up?
She be uncomfortable, bro. She uncomfortable.
You know what I mean? So I like it when she's the one that's like, hey, what's up with you? What's up with you, daddy? You know. Zaddy, right? What's good with you, daddy?
No, but I think honestly that a man's view of intimacy as opposed to a woman's view of intimacy are two completely different things. I feel like men's idea of intimacy is just sex. But with
not necessarily. See, that's why you don't get it.
Well, get the debate going.
I said I feel. I didn't say
again,
it's a fact.
An example, not a testimony.
But women, it's even conversation can be intimacy. Us just relaxing and cuddling, that's intimacy. You coming and just rubbing me while I'm on my Zoom, that's intimacy. So like I think it depends on what kind of intimacy you're talking about as well. But I do know that men value that in relationships. It's a huge deal for them, and as a wife you have to it's your duty to meet those needs as well.
Yeah, but it all goes back to also the things that we've been talking about around sort of like not expecting the other to just know, but just having open conversations about the things that you want to happen. Because right when we just said, intimacy, for men is different from women, and then you got doing like, no, not necessarily, right? So they just might like it when they're zooming, you come and rub their shoulders too, or their beard, or their heads, or whatever it is. But it's more so understanding, what your partner enjoys. So it doesn't necessarily has to be about the physicality of just, sex in essence. So I appreciate that nugget there. Jubes, it sounded like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, intimacy, like kind of to connect to your last point, like it does have some physical tenets to it, but for me, it's about being seen, it's about being heard, and it's about being understood. Because to me, that thread goes through every facet of a relationship, right? Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you understand me in the bedroom, right? That's where people go first, right? I wouldn't necessarily go there first, right? But do you see me? Do you hear me? And do you understand me as it relates to my goals and my dreams and what I want to accomplish, in life? Do you see me? Can you hear me? Do you understand the things that bruised me in life? Yeah. And when I walk into, a room of people, do you have my heartbeat? Do you understand where I am without me even saying a word? You don't have to even touch me or even be near me, but you know me. To me, it's more about the knowing, because to me, that knowing translates into, the intimacy and sexual exchange in the bedroom, as well. So that's what intimacy is for me.
I felt that as Jubilee was talking, I was like this.
See why I'm snapping.
I felt that. I felt close, girl. I felt close.
You know what it is? Because I am so I'm so against boxing. I hate boxers. I hate that. I hate boxers, and I feel like our divorce rate, as a country, as a world, probably wouldn't be as high if we didn't try to teach people marriage in a boxy way. Well, if you do this, if you do these three things, and then you do these three things, if you give him head every night, girl, he's not.
No,
Is we
don't
adults
say
or
that.
what? Is we adults? This is not a
No,
children's show,
I'm
right?
laughing because he said, well,
Okay,
because
I'm
I
just
think
saying, like
89% of men would agree.
we learn what y'all like. You know what I'm saying? Come on, look, this adult. What the hell? We as adults.
Talk it.
Right? But like we
Uncensored.
say, okay, well, if you do this every night, well, then this is gonna fix it. Well, he might be more mesmerized and follow you around when you go to the supermarket and do all the laundry. All right, but like, is that enough? Is that enough? Right?
No, that's real.
Right? And it's like, if you buy her flowers every day and show up at her job dressed like Romeo, that'll do it. And it's just like always this formulaic sort of thing versus me leaning into you on a daily basis with the morning breath. And who are you today? And for real, how can I support you today? How can I pray for you today? Right? Like, and back to your to Dwayne's point about the whole 50-50, I wholeheartedly agree, like the 100-100, but then also understanding that in a marriage, there are some days where I might just be 20. Yeah. I might just be 10. And as my spouse, you're gonna have to be the 90.
Yeah.
It's not this thing that's always balanced all the time. I do not believe that balance is achievable. I believe it is something that you're always striving to attain, but I don't believe you ever really, it's like surfing or riding a bike. That wheel or those handlebars never really stay straight. You have to do some adjustments, So I feel like all of those things are connected to intimacy, the leaning in, the wanting to know more, the being open to the fact that the person that, again, I said I do to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is different now, has different needs. And I just want to know, I just want to be where you are. Yeah. Morning breath and all, passing gas and all, period cramps and all
of that.
Midlife crisis with your head going bald with a stripe down the middle and all. I want to be where you are, and I want to know who you are. And there is nobody in this entire universe that I want to know more than I know you. And when we think about, to me, the prototype of this was Adam and Eve. I feel like God, they didn't listen, damn it. They didn't listen. That's why I'm going to get on Eve line when I go to heaven, because I got to talk to her.
Yeah, we should.
Eve didn't listen. But in the terms of the intimacy, nobody was talking about clothes. They didn't have no clothes, right? So I took this woman from you.
Yeah.
I say, bro, right? God was like, yo, bro, it's not good for you to be alone. You about to lose your mind. Let me help you out. Go to sleep. Right? Took Eve and was like, all right, bro, I done gave you a help me. All right, cool. Now here's your kingdom. Just don't touch that tree over there. Right? But everything is yours. Now get to know one another. Get to know one another and have dominion together. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's pure. And to me, that is what intimacy is.
Yeah. And I also a scripture that always comes to my mind when it comes to what you're talking about, Jubilee, and it's in the process of marriage. It's funny how the Bible talks about the two becomes one. You never say the two became one once you got married. It's becoming one. It's a process, it's a daily thing. And the one thing I want people who are listening to understand, there is some relativity in marriage. You got to find your normal. You got to find the process that works for you. You got to discover even intimacy. Intimacy. It's not the same for everybody. It's not black and white. So it's impossible to try to go in there thinking this is the things I am going to do to be intimate, and people are changing. Their needs are changing every single day over the course of the marriage. So it's very important in the process of becoming one. We understand it is becoming one. It's every single day. And before I even said that, I was going to say for us believers, but that's not just for us believers. It's for anybody. Whatever your is, if you're in marriage or you're in a relationship, every day you're becoming a better partner for that person. Correct. Your marriage is getting better based on the work that you're putting in. So it is a process.
Correct.
Again, as we go through this segment, I just want to underscore the thing that keeps coming up and the thread that we keep pulling on, which were the pillars that we started this conversation around. What are the things that should show up in a successful relationship? And that's, again, communication. A lot of this came back to communication, transparent communication about your needs.
Michelle froze.
She's coming back. Come back.
Come on, Jesus, bring her back.
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's right.
There we go.
You froze, Michelle. You froze.
Y'all want me to point that one more
No,
time?
you froze. You froze.
Yes, because you froze up.
You froze up a little bit.
What I was saying was generosity is spirit. And that's the way I kind of like want to phrase this idea around compromise, because you're having to sacrifice and give of yourself in service of the person that, you love, right? And then we talked about...
Michelle, if I could say something to that, it's not even giving of yourself in service to that person. It's giving yourself in service of the unit.
The unit.
The unit. I think it's very important, because it's almost like I'm changing who I am for that person. It's more so I'm changing who I am. I'm adjusting who I am. I'm compromising for the betterment of us.
The unit,
right?
yes.
The unit, yeah.
I got you. And then compatibility came up. And then we kept going back to, again, Christ. But for a lot of people, that looks different, just religion, right? And then I wanted to now kind of like shift gears, because we talked a lot about marriage and then we got into intimacy. And so, for the other folks that are getting back in the game, this dating aspect of it, how can people be successful? Because ultimately you want to find the right partner. We don't necessarily, some people don't mind not putting a ring on it, but if their route is to find sort of like a life partner, let's put it that way, it starts with the courtship. So in dating, what are the things then that should be the prongs of it? And my gut tells me it's going to go back to, again, the things that we've already been talking about. But let's still highlight for the folks that are now, got their notepads ready to take some notes for the, to get back out there. So what are the prongs for successful courtship that would then lead into this like lifetime partner, whether it's like marriage or just, being together for life?
I would say, well, go ahead, Dwayne, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say something real quick. So, I guess it goes back to what Jubilee said earlier about knowing yourself. That's going to be number one. You got to know who you are. A lot of people just date because they want to have a boyfriend, like you think it's high school. This ain't high school. Like, know who you are first. The next step, date with a purpose. Like, you must have a purpose. Like, if you're just out here dating because you just want to say, I want to go for dinner tonight or whatever, nah, that's not it. I want to put somebody in my Facebook, say that's my boo. That ain't it. Like, you know what I mean? You must have a purpose. And I think what that really means, right, is be intentional. So when you date, you're on a date, ask questions. Like, they spoke about this earlier. Like, ask questions. Literally put it out there. What are you expecting? What are you looking for? This is what I'm looking for. Put it out there. Don't be scared. Because if somebody gets scared of those questions, guess what? They're wasting your time. Keep it moving. You know what I mean? Like, that's what dating, I feel like dating should be about. When I speak to stuff to my younger crowd, though, my younger cousins and stuff, they look at me like I'm crazy. And they're like, you don't know what dating is, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, maybe that's why you don't got no man. Because, you might be dating with the wrong. I don't say that. They might hear it now and get mad at me. But I think intention. You got to be purposeful in everything that you do. And I think that's what's going to be like. Date with intention. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's something there that can potentially be debunked, because I think for a very long time, oftentimes people shy away from asking certain questions. They'll tell you, too soon to have this, this is not a first date kind of question. This is not a second date kind of question. But hearing from a guy who's saying like, no, ask those questions because you want to know if he's playing or not, so ask the questions. Don't shy away from it, because then when you do, then that's when it kind of like delays you identifying those red flags, and you've done, wasted some time. So debunk this idea that there is a timeline for when you have to ask questions. Oh no, you start up front, because again, you're going in with a purpose, and whatever that purpose is, you also want to state it, because everybody wants to identify and go in well informed. Like, I want to know up front whether or not we need to go on this second date, or, I want to make an informed decision about, whether or not this is something that we can actually continue to push through, or where it was compatible.
Yeah. And in 2020, and it's gonna be a stupid joke, and I'm sorry if you're offended.
I'll laugh for you, baby.
In 2020, the questions have changed. You need to ask the person, have you been to a state that is a hot spot?
Facts.
COVID is crazy right now. You're not just asking about credit score. You have antibodies.
That's it. You have antibodies.
You have the antibodies. I'm sorry. We actually have personal loss for COVID. So it's like some of these things you just have to just bring humor to it. It sounds silly, but there's just questions you want to ask. Like,
someone once said that when you're dating, it's your time to collect data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like, what do you like? What don't you like? And always go in with a plan of what you're expecting to come out of this conversation, right?
Correct.
So in when we shared the ABCs before you say I do, the A was ask those tough questions.
Correct.
Because like you said, Michelle, if you can't answer the tough questions now, like if we get married and we will have tougher things to discuss, if you can't do it now on this low level scale, then you're not worth my second date. You're not worth a second date. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important that you don't shy away from the things you really want to know. And that's not being pushy. That's not being needy, right? That's just you know what your purpose is. You know what your purpose is and what you're looking for. I think it's really important that you have a clear vision of what you want, and not to have, like Julie stated, like these like 97 non-negotiables, but to know that, okay, these are certain things that I'm looking for, and these are some of my non-negotiables. And if someone crosses that, then you know that it possibly is not the relationship for you.
And I feel like I just had an aha moment too, and I don't know if it was something else that because I read a lot and try to counsel myself sometimes, but also being sort of like a hiring manager, somebody had made the juxtaposition to like dating and also like interviewing, when it's like, you won't just hire somebody off the street. You need to make sure that they have the right qualifications. And so it's like, in order to assess that, you got to be asking the right questions. You go in with the mission and vision, and seeing that person is the right person to get on this bus. And so it's the same idea when you're talking about, your forever love. So there should not be any angst around asking those questions, that's going to get you to understand what this person is about, what their intentions are, and whether or not it matches, where you're trying to go. But I do have a question from a viewer that says,
can I just add?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel I have a different spin on it, especially now, like being divorced, right? And I am dating. But I really feel like, what's up with the fun? Like after, so I was married for technically 15 years, right? We separated around 13. And so dating and re-entering the dating scene was totally different, right? And so when I was younger, I wouldn't talk to you if you didn't have marriage on your plate, because why? And I was a virgin, so that's how I was raised. So like, that was my focus. And now as a grown woman that has been married, gone through a divorce, have 2 children of my own, going through healing process, going through, bouts of, depression, confusion, all the different things that come with, breaking up with the love of your life, betrayal, all the things that come with that. I don't want to ask you about your crowd care. Out here. Where we going? We going bowling? What we doing? We going, what you like?
Yeah.
Strawberries? Okay. Okay, good. We going. So, because to me, that is like, it's too much too soon as a person coming out of a marriage. You know what I'm saying? So if I was talking to, women like myself, I'd be like, girl, right? And people had to tell me this, because I could be pretty intense as well. Like, yo, what is we doing? What's the plan? Like, where you got a 401k or what? But it's just like, no, don't be so intense. Like, relax, go out, enjoy yourself, remind yourself that you're still beautiful, that you still got it. Because coming out of a marriage that didn't, work out for whatever reason, you start to doubt yourself. You start to think like, oh my God, like, did You know, I was an amazing wife. You hear me? I don't care what they tell you. All right, I was an amazing wife. Okay,
inbox me the address. We're gonna pull up.
What? Listen, flaws and all. I was an amazing wife, and I believe that I pleased God with my actions. I made plenty of mistakes, as we all do, right? Yeah. But the point is that still didn't change the fact that I blame myself for things. I came out like, oh man, like, could I have done this differently? Could I have done more? Maybe all those things go out. So now re-entering the dating scene, it's like you have to learn who you are again. So from that perspective, it's like you have to relearn who you are again, and then just go out and enjoy yourself without any sort of not like without, keep your boundaries, of course, but without any kind of list or checklist or like, well, where are we going to be in 3 months, all that. Just when's the last time you laughed? When's the last time you went out and just had a good time with another human being? Because maybe I won't marry you. Maybe after the third time we go out, I realize that your communication skills really lacks, right? Or you don't have a vision or whatever, but I had a good laugh. I had a good time. You were a good show partner, and perhaps you'll be a friend, So that's a perspective from me being a divorcee.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like we have a lot of friends who separated or who've been divorced, and you're right. When they get in that next relationship, they're not thinking automatically, what are you bringing? Not to overgeneralize, because again, I'm saying this as respectfully as possible. There's this trauma that this person needs to overcome. We know, not to put the person out, we know of someone right now, he thought he did everything right when it comes to before he got married, and his marriage still fell. And he's like, God, I did everything. I didn't have sex. We did all this, we did all that. And then for my marriage, of course, there are work that they're supposed to have done as a couple that they were not doing that lead to the divorce. But that trauma to this point, marriage is not even in his mind. He's in a long-term relationship over 8 years, but is not thinking marriage because of the trauma that came along with the first marriage. So that's absolutely understandable. And Michelle, you were talking about the millennials versus the Gen X. I would love to know the millennials now, when they go into dating or courting, is it marriage in the mindset or just companionship? I just want to chill with somebody. I want a chill partner. Doesn't mean that they want to go, and some of them want to test the waters as much as possible. There's no commitment. We're just kicking it right now. I don't even know what that means. It's like so many different terms that this generation uses. We ain't together,
right?
But we gather, right? We're working on that too. We're just gather right now, and so it's like
I'm still old school when it comes to that. Like, what are we talking about?
But I was like, listen, I was a squarish of the squares growing up. Here, check this out. I'm a Christian. I'm Haitian. I'm Black. There's some tradition that came along with dating. Automatically, I'm thinking marriage, right? But is this generation thinking that way? Is it? I think I'm quoting you.
I think it depends, and it also depends on the mindset, because you got millennials on different sort of like spectrums. You got some that are thinking straight ahead, like, I'm done with school, I'm financially set, and so now the next step is to get married. And then you have the other set is just kind of like, I'm just kind of like courting, dating. I was talking to a friend the other day, and it wasn't that he wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship or someone, but he just hadn't felt successful. And so then in his mind, he's like, well, maybe I should just go ahead and, have like a social contract. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like if somebody that looks great, you know what I mean? Like looks good as a showcase. Like we both love art, right? And so we can go to the museum and hang out and have a good time kind of thing. But then they might not be mature enough to be someone to get married to, but you're just so tired of like going through all the rigmaroles of trying to find that right one that kind of like gets all the things you're looking for. So I really think it depends. And also there's like emotional maturity that goes with that too. So in anything, it's almost like, where's that person, what phase of their life that they're in. It's the same thing for millennials now too. It's just that, there's a little bit more other than I like you, you're a great couple, we're going to get married. It's more so we're looking at other things too, to make it happen. But yeah.
And
so that's my short answer.
And the last thing I want to add to that, as you're courting or dating, if you are I'm dating you because I'm thinking long term, and the other person I just want to chill, you got to make a decision.
Right.
Correct.
To invest in this, knowing that no love lost. I'm looking for the exclusive to the path of marriage.
Yep.
Right.
She's looking or he's looking just to kick it. Nothing.
Correct.
So you have to.
And
because some
there's nothing wrong with it.
Are hurt because they're holding on to the hope that he's gonna want to do exclusivity
someday,
get married, but that's probably him.
Correct.
Take
it.
Right.
And I think that's what I was getting at earlier. I think I was more of a level of like, when I say dating with a purpose, it's like knowing what your purpose is. So if your purpose is just to kick it, that's fine. You know what I mean? But stating that also from jump. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here to kick it. You know what I mean? And that's okay. You know what I mean? We both be on the same page. I just want to go out, have fun, and then if we get there, we get there. But right now, I'm just enjoying my life, and that's okay. That is totally fine. But if we get the reason why I say, making sure that you state what you want, because if you're looking for marriage, a lot of people out here just want to kick it. So you got to state, like, I'm looking for marriage. You know what I mean? Not just to kick it for 8 years.
So I have this one question, and anybody can take it. Can you tell if someone is for you after the first date?
Yeah, I saw that question earlier.
Woo. I mean, yes and no, right?
Yeah.
Yes and no. The reason why I say yes and no. So the Dwayne that you see here in front of you is not the Dwayne that was around, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? And so the Dwayne 15, 20 years ago, I don't know if you could have told him I would for you after the first date. I have no idea. You know why? Because I'm going to give you what you're looking for. Whatever you ask me for on the first date, oh yeah. You're like, oh, I'm looking for a guy that, I'm him. I'm him. You know what I mean? That was the old way. So it depends on who you meet. You know what I mean? Some guys are going to keep it real and be like, nah, I'm not going to give you that. And so, yes, you can't tell after the first date in those sense, where some guys are going to give you like, yeah, I'm just looking. I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking for. Yeah, don't waste time. If you're looking for a marriage, he's telling you that, peace out. Don't waste time with that dude at all. You know what I mean? But sometimes you can't, because sometimes guys fool you up. Another time, or if it's just the first date and you guys are just having fun, of course you can't tell anything after the first date. You're just having fun. So it really all depends.
I think my wife, when she first saw me, she wanted to marry me. The way she just like, bro, I wasn't. We were at a church service, right? I'm in the front I'm leading the program, and at the end of the program, right? They end the program, so she's all the way in the back. I'm standing in the front. All I see is people being pushed out the way, right? Just pushing people.
Look at her face.
She comes straight to me like, "Hi, how are you?" So right there from the jump,
Clearly, she has a different version of the story, folks.
Clearly, I have the truth.
Her version of my
No, but
Jubilee, you said hell no earlier.
Hell no. That's the long and short of it. Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. The Michelle's question, can you tell? I'm sorry. Jesus love you. I do too. Whoever put the question in there. God bless your heart. But no, I think you can tell if you're interested.
I was gonna say that, yes.
If you're interested, if you want to know more, but that's about all, because you about to meet, people lie. We all put our best foot forward and then do this whole keep it a buck. It's like, no, you really are treading lightly, on this first date, especially if it's a long-term person and you know them for a long time, perhaps you'd be a little bit more relaxed. So that might be a little bit different. But if this is somebody who you really don't know them from Adam and you're going on a date with them for the first time, I think the most you can tell from a first date is whether or not you want to go on a second one, and whether or not you want to know more about that person. If they pique your interest, you can tell, I think, if you believe that you have a synergy, a peak of a synergy, because it's really time and scenarios and situations and conversations that reveal all of that. And even if you felt like you knew from the first day, I'd say keep on going, because eventually the truth will show up.
Yeah, facts. Agreed.
Another question from a viewer. Should men pay for the first date? That's the first part of the question. And are there expectations once a guy pays for the first date? So answer the first one first. Maybe a guy could take this. And then the second part is, are there expectations once the guy pays for the first date?
I'll preface my answer with I'm old school,
Yeah.
right? So I'm gonna say yeah, he should pay for the first date, and so I don't know about the expectation that follow it, no, but I think um, if I ask you out, right, as a man, and I'm like, hey, I want to take you on a date, I'm interested, so on and so forth, whatever the case may be, can't expect you to pay for anything. Like, no. I mean, if you pull out your wallet and maybe he decides, all right, you can give me 20 or you can leave tip, I mean, that's a different story. Y'all can figure that out. But if I'm taking you out, nah, I can't expect you to do anything. I got to pay for the first date. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, people be arguing with me about that too. And I'm like, how? Like, let the man do his job. Let him pay for
I
the
agree.
date.
Yeah, I'm on the same wave. There's some traditions. Just I just don't know how chivalry isn't there, like Ann said. I mean, our first day, I remember it now. We went to Fridays. I was young. I had no money, so we went to Fridays. I'm just glad she didn't order the left side of the menu. She just
Stayed on the appetizer
it was
page.
just one appetizer and a main course, and yeah, there's just certain things I feel like it's just the right way of doing things, and yeah, so definitely.
I want to add. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say something real quick, and you can talk, Jubilee. I'm sorry. So like, I'm gonna bring it personally to my marriage. So when we our first date, funny enough, my wife paid for our first date, and she'll tell you that up to today. I paid for the first date. She did. She totally did. She definitely. I mean, she don't. My wife not like. She don't see like that. But she's much more calm and quiet. But she definitely tell you up to today she paid for the first date, and she did. I mean, I remember we were going out, and I was like, hey, we're gonna go to this show, and so she's like, I'm gonna order the tickets, and I was like, all right, cool. And so she ordered the tickets for the show. And I was like, I got you back on the money. And I was young, 23 or something like that, whatever it may be. And I was like, all right, cool. And then never get back the money. You know what I mean? It wasn't I wasn't trying to play her.
You better cash app her.
Up to today, she talks about
it. You ain't never going to live it down.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
It's not.
I might buy a card tomorrow and put the money in there. You know what I mean? Like, here you go for the first day. You know what I mean? But I think you should, that should be the intention. You should definitely want to pay for it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say that I wholeheartedly agree. That's also how I was raised, and I feel like it goes back to the security thing, and I think that men who do have a problem with it now is probably because of the way that a lot of women see it, view it, treat it like a right, like like what you bring it to the table versus for me, it's like, no, I got you. I'm like you said, Dwayne, like I'm taking you out. I'm catering to you. I'm showing up for you, and I'm letting you know I got you. You don't have to worry about a thing when we're together. To me, that's a prototype for, oh, okay, well, this could be what it would look like if we did move to another level. That you got me. I don't have to worry about anything. And for me, that points to my relationship with my dad. Right? Like, yo, I got you. It don't matter. Don't nobody love you no more. They leave you out in the street. He don't want to take care of the kid. I got you. That's how I was raised. So that's what it means to me. But I also think that the meaning now has turned into a nasty thing because when a woman is like, yeah, because he better, because how much, and then like, I'm gonna order the lobster. It's not even any humility there. I'm gonna order the lobster and the scallops and the crabs and the scrimps. And I'm gonna get and it's just like, bro, what do we do? Like, what, you're doing too much. So you want the bill to be $482 on the first date to show that he's interested in you? And your butt implants, I love you if you have butt implants. Jesus loves you if you have butt implants, okay? I'm not judging you. You go ahead and wear those, okay? But you get my points. I just feel like, there should be a humility there, but I totally, wholeheartedly agree that if you're taking me out, you should pay. And it to me says, I got you, not this is what you need to be doing for me.
Yeah.
I have another question from another viewer. Do any of you believe in the concept of the one or a soulmate? That's the first part of it. Mm-hmm. Like there is only one possible mate that God supposedly has for you.
I used to, not anymore.
Yeah, I definitely don't believe that's the case at all. I don't think that there's, just like I don't feel like we're necessarily predestined to make it to heaven, and we gotta earn that. We're not by work. Sorry, I shouldn't earn that, but I mean, I think that's salvation thing. But I think I don't think that there's the one. No, I think you can make it work. You know what I mean? You got to find somebody you're compatible with, like we said earlier. You know, we got to be ready and willing to work on this relationship. But no, I don't think there's no set one for you out there, and that's the only one. And so you missed that one. You know, somebody else married them, and what happened to that? So what happened if somebody married your wife?
Person dies,
You know what I mean? Correct. Like
you get to meet them. Like, okay, am I, gonna be?
I'm never getting married because I didn't meet my one.
Yeah. I think there can be many prospects that line up with your I guess your standards, if you want to call it that. And like you said, Dwayne, the one that you decide to make it work with can become your one. You know,
so you can find one, but it's not the one.
Not the one.
You
Correct.
find
that
one.
person becomes the one.
Exactly. Makes it work, right?
Correct.
I mean, I'm not even sure. And I'm thinking scriptural, if that's even like
even biblical.
There was a time where I used to think growing up, because of that the way the person asked that question, there was this expectation that is set in church, like in the church, like the heavens is gonna open, right? And then that person,
and the one that God has for you,
it's gonna come down and come in a dream or in like the light flashing. Correct. So that's not. And growing up, I realized that's not how it works.
And I think it also goes back to, because again, when you start thinking about this idea of soulmate, you're expecting that person to be perfect, right? And that not recognizing that still people are flawed, they're gonna make mistakes. And that's when you kind of have to get into this place of grace and understand, what are the things that you're now going to have to see this person as a human, a person, and help to kind of like navigate through whatever that challenge was or that hiccup was in that situation. Because when you go and thinking it's my soulmate, they're going to do all things that are right by me. In the moment that does not happen, it's like, well, he's not the one for me, but, and then you forget about the work that you essentially also have to put into it to make it work. And so I think that's also where this idea came from, about sort of like growing in love, as opposed to thinking that the heavens is going to open and this person's just going to come. And, like Jubilee said, you get married and, love and that's all that there is. And it's really not like that, but you got to go through some things first to then recognize, like, soulmate becomes like what essentially y'all make it to be the one for each other.
I mean, the one thing I would say, no pun intended, I do believe whether you're dating, you're courting, you're chilling, you're kicking it, I am a big believer in exclusivity. I'm just not a big fan of you messing with multiple people at the same time, regardless if it's for fun, regardless if it's for courting, dating, pursuing marriage. I'm a big believer in exclusivity. That's the only thing I would say to that. But as far as the one, there's one.
But I also believe that God can reveal to you who your one will be. And I feel like and that's only based off of experience, but I know it has happened as well. So yes, God can reveal who your one is. But in terms of having one person on this earth for you, I don't believe that either.
I have a question though. So sorry, this is my question. It's gonna be sorry, Michelle. I got a question that popped in my head. I'm not taking over your leadership, bro. Just real quick.
By all means.
Because she said something that made me think about it. So let's talk about the one. What does the one really mean then, right? So, if I were to find this person that was amazing for me and they worked really well and so on and so forth, and something happened, we had the explosion, and that one person couldn't make it through it for whatever reason, or one person couldn't take it for whatever reason. Does that now mean that this person? I guess, never mind, answer my question, because they will no longer be the one because we didn't make it through it, right? So,
they probably were the one for that time, right?
Correct. Ain't the one no more. I get it.
I think they could have been the one. I really feel like it is about continual surrender. I tell people all the time, like, I don't think my marriage had to end, right? But when you get into a place, I feel like my ex-husband got into a place of hard-heartedness. Right. And so when it was like, come on, let's go to therapy, like, let's work on it. And it's like, no. Right. Now you're moving further and further and further away from being the one, because you're not willing to do the work it will take to remain the one. You know, like if I came home like, look, I'm not sleeping with you no more. That's it. And I said, well, I'm gonna just do that for 5 years. Right. And it's just like, yeah, maybe I was the one, but it's like, wait, I put myself in a position where I'm no longer surrendered, where I'm no longer, giving myself to you. Of course, that's putting you in a position where we don't have the intimacy, we don't have the this and that, right? And it's just like, wait a minute. If we're going to continue to be the one for one another, we have to continue to surrender to God first, and we have to continue to submit one to another. It's a two-way street. Yeah. Right. And so it's just like when I think about how people say they fell out of love or whatever, I think it's more so because you stop surrendering to the process. Yeah. Right. Because God will check you. He will get you realigned. Right. Many couples have gone through many things, and God has, been able to repair because he's the nucleus, he's the center, he's the foundation. And that's, but the moment that you decide that you don't want to be a part of that process anymore, you don't want to surrender, you don't want to ensure that you keep your heart in a soft place where God can tug on your heartstrings and be like, hey, you were wrong, or hey, you're being prideful, or hey, you're being evil, or whatever it is. Now we have a problem. And so again, I really do believe it's back to that willingness. I will.
Yeah. I love what Jubilee said. Sorry, real quick. Because remember we spoke about, what the ABC, the D was divorce is not an option, right? I said that to Michelle a while ago, and she wanted to beat me up, right? And she was like, what? No, but I'm saying, now I was like, no, listen. That's what Jubilee was saying, basically my idea of divorce not being an option, meaning if we're both on that same level, we're going to have hardships. We're going to have the problem. But if we're like, yo, listen, we have to work this out. The problem, I think why so many people get divorced nowadays is because they're like, well, if it don't work, we get divorced. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that can't be it. Yeah. You can't just be like, if it don't work, we get a divorce. You know what I mean? Like, both of us have to be willing to work it out. You know what I mean? And I don't want to put it across and make people feel that it's a level of like, one person made divorce an option. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying no, because sometimes people front. So guys will be here and they'll be like, well, I wanted to work it out, but she didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't want to work it out at all. Don't front. The dude will front, and vice versa. Females might do the same thing too. They might front and act like they want to work it out, but they really don't want to work it out. But no, if we're both willing to really put in the work and the effort that there, because like we spoke about, the explosion stages come. We're gonna have these explosive issues. You know what I mean? But if we're both willing to work them out, that's when divorce don't become an option. It's like, listen, we are gonna work this out. I'm not gonna let you go because you are the one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sorry, Michelle.
Hey, with your chest. And just to clarify, that was the point that I was getting at. It has to be two willing participants, for it not to, come to a point where it's like, well, I'm trying to work it out, but you're not. You know what I'm saying? So that's when it becomes not an option, when the two people are willing to work it out, based on whatever the hurdle is. So let me just clarify that. Well, this was an incredibly informative and entertaining panel. Learned so much from everyone that was on here, and I'm pretty sure my MRT people got a lot of gems tonight. I saw some hand clapping, some amens over here on the chat. So I know that people garnered a lot from this conversation, talking about, marriage, intimacy, and dating. And it was supposed to be a 2-part series, and we ended up making it kind of like 2-part. It was just too good to stop. And so again, I appreciate you. I saw someone also write in here that they wanted the Facebook information of all the people that are on the panel. So come back, Michelle.
Michelle, you disappeared again. Your whole froze.
We can't hear you.
You live in the boondocks. That's the problem. You got to come back to New York.
She's saying something great, everybody.
She is. It's the enemy right here. The enemy is blocking you, Michelle. The enemy is blocking.
There we go. That finger.
Yeah. All right. Take from the top.
Take it from the top.
Yeah, the Facebook part. People on Facebook info.
The faithful part. Wait, what y'all talking about?
Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Oh, folks are wanting your Facebook information. So I'm gonna release it to you so you can share your contact information. There was a lot of resources also that was shared here tonight in terms of where folks can get some couple therapy and Irvin's and Jubilee, this your Crisis to Crown session on Saturday. So please reiterate that information for our viewers. Yeah. And then we'll wrap up. So we'll start with Ann and Irvin.
Yeah, so we are on Facebook, Love Talks with the Garçons. Garçons is GARCON. So you guys could follow us on that page and message us there. We also have our own personal Facebook account. If you look on the tiles, you could see our names and the spelling. So you could definitely add us on Facebook as well. YouTube is also, everything is Love Talks with the Garçons. So you could find us there on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you can message us there. That's also our email address, love talks with the garçons 08 at gmail.com. So that's where we can be found.
Awesome. Jubes?
Hi, so you can find me on Facebook as Jubilee Ransom. I also have my business page, which is under Jubilee Mosley, but Ransom is my maiden name, so that's what I'm using. So yes, it's still me, Jubilee Ransom, Jubilee Mosley. And then on Instagram, it's Jubilee, that's ITSJUBILEE _. And also the link for Saturday's experience called the Crisis to the Crown Experience is on my IG page as well as both Facebook pages. Also, I'm going to be offering a 6-week course. I'm going to be sharing that at the end of Saturday's experience. So if you're interested in walking through your healing journey with some support from myself as a certified life coach and some other people I'm connected with that are really helpful with healing, please let me know. So you can inbox me. You can, inbox me or come to the event on Saturday. Like, again, you have to register to get the Zoom information, but I look forward to connecting with you also.
And Dwayne, I'm gonna put a plug in for you. He's great at emceeing at weddings, so you need to look him up.
That's all I do, right? That's all I do, right?
But share your info.
It sounds like you could do
Someone
it.
who wants to connect with you.
Yeah, if you want to connect with me, reach out to Michelle. She can find me, right? No, I'm just Dwayne Lee. You can find me at Dwayne Lee on everything. I'm not on everything though. I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, cool. And again, as usual, MRT fam, you can find all of our MRT episodes and at Motherhood Real Talk, our YouTube channel, and also our Facebook page. We also have an Instagram.
I rebuke you, Satan.
Word. Rebuke you, Satan.
Come
Can't
back.
even hear you. Start counting. Let's count. Still can't hear you.
Now you can hear me.
There we
go. All right. So again, you can find all of our episodes on Motherhood Real Talk on Facebook and also on YouTube. Thank you so much again, all of you, for taking the time to come on and sharing your gems of wisdom. It was an amazing time tonight. And as usual, I'm taking away so much. And I know that our Motherhood Real Talk viewers are also taking away a whole lot. So have a wonderful, wonderful night. And my hope is that we can do this again sometime. With wine.
Let's do it.
Wine.
Make it happen.
Sweet red wine.
He's doing it, guys. He's doing it. He's doing it.
Good job.
He took something away today.
We got to learn. Every
Thank
step
you
of the
for
way.
that.
We learn it.
All right. Thanks, good people.
Good night, everyone.
All right, good night,
brother.
everybody.
Nice meeting you.
Good night.
You too, guys.